let's get into it. Yesterday I posted about these emotional shifts that you need to create. A lot of people think that they become a healthier version of themselves just by doing more, by pushing themselves harder and harder and harder and running themselves into the ground more and more and more. And I can understand the whole notion of meritocracy, and that in order to get more out of life, you have to put more in. And to an extent, it holds true. Though, there comes a point where the returns start to diminish. There's working hard, there's working smart, there's working hard and smart. And when it comes to your health and fitness, it should be like all other aspects of your life where you're able to work hard and smart. And that's just efficiency at its finest. So a lot of people, especially the women who come to me who are looking to create these shifts in their health and their career and business, they want to be 10 kilos lighter, 10% less body fat. They want to feel stronger and more confident in their own skin. And they think that they're going to get there simply by running themselves into the ground, running themselves on a treadmill, running full stop. And can I just take a second to say, fuck that. I am only going to run if there's an emergency or a really good sale. They are the two instances. Like if there's a tiger in the room all of a sudden, I will probably start running. If there's a tidal wave, chances are I'll start running. If there's a tsunami, earthquake, they all seem like pretty valid reasons to run. Really good sale. So by my definition, that's at least 50% off. Although I saw in Michael Kors there was 50% off yesterday. I didn't run. I didn't even go in, honestly. 60% off, yes. 60, 70% off, 80% off, closing down sale, not to be missed. In those instances, I am running. All other instances, no fucking way, because it's just not me. Why would I want to spike my cortisol levels? Why would I want to stress myself out? And not just that, but stress myself out exercising in a way that just doesn't feel good and of nature to me. Okay, that is only going to cause more stress, more inflammation, and more resistance from your body when it comes to creating those changes you're looking to see. So more is not always better. More of the right things is going to be more effective long term. And that's the difference there. So sometimes actually less can be more. Less in terms of how many exercises you choose. This is a big change that I've made to my own training. I used to incorporate way too many exercises into my routines. I was doing 10, maybe even 12 exercises per workout. And honestly, I have had far more effective workouts with much greater intensities by doing 6 to 8 exercises. So when we talk about more, we want to consider, are we doing more of the right things, or are we just doing more for the sake of doing more? Because we can do more ad nauseum and still get nowhere. That's not where we want to go. Of course, we want to get somewhere with our efforts. Our time is valuable to us, and we want to see a return on that time. But if we're putting our time into pointless or not so efficacious exercises and approaches, then again, it's going to feel like a lot of effort for nothing. Okay, that is worth considering. So more exercises does not equal more effective. No. More intensity, however, fewer exercises, for me has been a huge change to my own training and has been a massive, massive, massive pivotal and effective change actually that I've integrated. So less is sometimes more, but less junk exercises, fewer junk reps, more reps with intention, more reps with intensity, more reps that leave you feeling like you might burst a blood vessel in your head because you're pushing yourself so hard. Fewer reps where you're like, Do you know what? That wasn't very challenging at all. How do you know if you're doing enough reps? That's a really good question. The last 4 to 5 repetitions on your first set, your first working set, I should highlight, should be challenging. And that should be true. So across all reps, if you were only doing 5 reps, all 5 reps would be challenging, like super challenging, okay? That is the gauge, that is the metric there. And again, if you are doing reps, for example, let's say it's 3 sets of 15, because I see far too many females default to 3 sets of 15 because apparently that's better for endurance, and apparently that's not going to leave you as quote unquote bulky as what it would if you were, let's say, doing 12 repetitions or 8 repetitions. If you're getting to 15 repetitions and you could easily do another 3, 5, 10, 20, again, this is just kind of junk. This is junk volume. Then again, you're just wasting your time. Okay, so no one has time to waste. We all want return on time. We all want to make sure that we are getting results for the time that we're putting into our health and fitness. That is going to be largely determined by your choice of exercise, the order of exercise, the intensity, your working sets and reps. And you're not going to get that intensity if you're staying comfortable. You're not going to get that intensity if you're finishing your set and you know you could do an extra 3 reps, you could do an extra 5, you could do an extra 10. A lot of people honestly can do another 8 repetitions even when they're tired. But human conditioning will let you think that giving up is normal and that staying comfortable is good when it doesn't really get you anywhere. So I want to highlight that less is not always a bad thing if you're focusing on using your time wisely. So less can be more. It comes down to how you filter your time and what you do with it. So again, exercise selection, order of exercises, the sets, the reps, and working at that intensity. It's been a huge thing that I've adjusted in my training, is pursuing intensity. So really getting to that point where my brain and body don't want to do anymore. And I'm telling it to do more because I want the benefit of having done more. I want to break through that mental barrier. I want to break through that physical barrier. And I want to see what I'm made out of. It's not going to happen if I stay comfortable. But again, we choose comfort because comfort equals survival. So it's human nature, but it's holding you back. Another thing to quit is the all or nothing approach. I see this a lot in high achieving individuals. It's either 110,000% of their life, attention, effort, energy being dedicated towards their business, relationship, training, fitness, nutrition, or it's couch potato. And they have no in between. And can I say, it takes a lot of dedication and effort. It's a concerted practice to build out the in-between. A lot of people are going to be all or nothing people, and that's how they define themselves. They give themselves that label, and thus they remain all or nothing people. Surprise. That's what we would expect, right? If you've defined yourself in a certain way, why would you be any different? You have given yourself that title, that's a comfortable title. It gives you an excuse to not build out that in-between. The in-between is super, super, super important. And again, it's a skill to flex. It is a muscle, a mental muscle of sorts to build. Don't just sit there and say, I'm an all or nothing person, therefore I can't get good at celebrating the small wins. That is a fucking excuse. It is absolute horse shit. You are an all or nothing person because you've observed yourself being all or nothing. You have chosen to stay all or nothing. You've chosen to stay black and white. That is your fault. That is why you can't get anywhere in life, because if things are not completely perfect and 100% the way that you want them to be, then you see no point. And so you start judging yourself and criticizing yourself and thinking, what is all of this effort for if I'm not going to get it perfect? I get that. I get that high performing individuals, overachieving women, want to be able to tick all the boxes and give themselves a grade A. Like, had the perfect Instagram title, tick. Turned up in the cutest outfit possible, tick. Makeup looked on point, tick. Content was really valuable and meaningful, tick. Had a really engaged audience, tick. Had a lot of people attend, tick. Had a great giveaway bag, tick. I get that. Life is fun when you get to tick boxes. It's nice being able to get those hits of dopamine when and where you can. I understand. But it's a great way to procrastinate. Calling yourself a perfectionist is a really cute way to say you are a procrastinator, a professional procrastinator. Just being real with you. And my podcast is called Real Talk, so okay, what do you expect? It's nice to get things right, quote unquote right. It is nice to feel that you did a really good job in a lot of different areas and in a lot of different departments. It's very emotionally satiating. However, life is not about living only in the extremes. And to be honest, who has ever gotten anything perfect? I mean, I can't even tell you how many mistakes I've made, how many failures I've experienced, how many things I've got wrong, how many times I've recalibrated. It's just not possible to get everything perfect all the time. And your workout regimen is going to be anything but perfect. Oh my God, I just want to shout out to Leon, who's just joined us. Thank you for being here. I've recorded at least 2 podcasts with the legend himself. And I believe he just moved to a new location, which has been amazing to see unfold. So please do connect with Body and Mind by Leon. If you're on Instagram, if you're hearing this on another platform, please be sure to connect with Leon Stenzum. He does some great work. So I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Thank you so much. So we're talking about 3 emotional shifts, as you would have read, that you need to create in order to be your healthiest self. So I was just talking about perfection and working through the perfection mindset, because actually a perfectionist is a professional procrastinator, and that's a bit of a tongue twister. You're not going to get everything perfect. Life is not about being perfect. Life is about influencing and adapting. So a recent shift I've had is learning that control, which is often what perfectionists are seeking in some way. They're looking for control. What has been a more helpful frame for me to observe is toggling between influencing and adjusting. And to me, that's actually a better definition or a better way to view control, because then I'm more adaptable. Do you know? I'm not so restrained and so confined by the circumstances at hand. If I'm not influencing the situation, then I'm adjusting and I'm adapting and I'm being resourceful. And when I learn how to toggle between the two, that to me is really like the ultimate control. I think that's a much more helpful and healthy way to look at it. So I want you to consider how you are holding yourself back by trying to be a perfectionist. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're in town, not traveling. It's easy to get into a routine. It's easier to get into a routine. It's easier to get into a routine of eating high protein foods, high fiber foods, doing meal prep, or ordering healthy, quote unquote, healthy takeaway. It's easier to get your 8,000 steps, 10,000 steps. It's easier to get your 4 liters of water a day. But then what happens? What happens when those circumstances change? What happens when you travel? What happens when you're not in Singapore? What happens when you're not in Sydney? What happens when you're not in Toronto? What happens when you're not in London? What happens when you're not in Paris? Then what? When the circumstances are not perfect, how are you adapting? How are you adjusting? Because if you're holding on to keeping everything as perfectly controlled, meticulously calculated, it's not going to get you anywhere. So that gray space in between completely perfect and completely chaotic, couch potato situation, everything on that spectrum is what you need to get good at doing. And then learn to replicate that in other countries, in other cities, in other circumstances, in other scenarios. How do you adjust when you have guests in town? What do you do for your health and fitness when you have family from overseas visiting and staying with you for 2 weeks? You just stop training? No, right? Then you get up earlier to go to the gym. You get to the gym before everything opens. You plan walks with your family and friends. You show them around on foot so that you get your steps up. You plan a lunch location where you can eat a healthy meal and they can still eat and drink whatever they want to. That in between is what people suck at. And that's why people don't get anywhere with their health and fitness. Just checking my post from yesterday. I want to make sure I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. Again, learning to celebrate the small things. So tying back into the perfectionistic mindset, a lot of people are only ever going to celebrate when they see substantial change. And they see the scales and they've lost 10 kilograms. But they fail to recognize they can't lose the 10th kilo before they've lost the first. And you can't lose 1 kilogram before you've lost 500 grams. So sometimes putting less pressure on yourself to getting to that big milestone allows you to get there sooner, because then you become enrolled in the process. And when the process feels easy and doable and fun, it's easier to adhere to, it's easier to stick with. And when you feel inclined to stick with something, you tend to keep going. And that's where the magic occurs. So again, how can you celebrate the seemingly small things on a daily and weekly basis? Because you're not always going to step on the scales and see a change. You'll sometimes step on the scales and see that the weight's increased, in fact. And that's not uncommon with weight loss journeys. What happens when you move country? Your weight may not continue to go down. What happens when you have a birthday party and you celebrate for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a whole week? Maybe it's your birthday month. Maybe you turn 40 in October and you spend the whole month celebrating. What happens if your weight doesn't go down? Do you then quit? You need to find little wins along the way to make the process all the more enjoyable. There is no win too small worth celebrating in my eyes. People don't let themselves celebrate though, because they think they're only worthy of celebrating when the win is substantial. Guess what, honey buns? No one's going to declare it a national day, a national holiday, the day that you lose 5 kilos. No prime minister is going to go, congratulations, Karen. We're going to make today a public holiday in honor of you losing 10 kilos. Today is a public holiday. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. No one is going to pop bottles of champagne. No one's going to shake your hand. No one's going to make a meal in honor of, like, it's just not what you think. The reality is you step on the scales, you see the number, that's it. So if you don't have any self-esteem, when you reach that milestone, it may even in fact feel like a bit of a, like the feeling may not be what you think it's going to be. And that's a dangerous thing, because that means that your self-esteem needs a lot of work. Do you know, I posted recently about the fact that I had back squatted 115 kilograms for the first time. And that was really cool. I'm working towards 120 kilograms. I have been for some time. It's been a big goal of mine for a while. And I'm every bit confident that I'll achieve that this year. I did it for the first time, perhaps 2 weeks ago. And I turned around and no one was cheering for me. I didn't high five anyone. I wasn't celebrating with anyone. It wasn't declared a national holiday. Shame about that. You know, I might have to write to PM Lee about that one. But it wasn't declared a national holiday. No one popped bottles of champagne. No one offered me a free protein shake. No one gave me a protein bar, sadly. Nothing was different. I was the same person. Now, knowing that I could back squat 115 kilos, I was still me. It was still me. It was just one more thing I got to add to my life CV, my life resume. Okay. I got to know that about me. I got to see me do something that I had not previously done. So the point being is, if you have this much emotion tied into seeing a magical number on the scales, you have to ask yourself what you're doing it for. Because if you think you're going to like yourself more when you see that magical number, it's probably the number from before you gave birth, before you moved countries, before you turned 40. If you think you're going to feel that much different about yourself, hate to tell you, but you won't. You'll find another reason to hate yourself. You'll find another reason to tear yourself down. You'll find another reason to judge yourself and criticize and resent. The magic comes from appreciating you and all your glory as you are now, creating self-acceptance. But people don't want to do that. People have a lot of resistance in doing that because a lot of people confuse resignation with acceptance. Resignation is, in a sense, being a little bit of a victim to the circumstances at hand. And then going, oh, why bother? Oh, I'm always going to be the fat person in the room. I'm always going to be the fat, lonely girl in the corner by herself. That was me at one point, by the way. That's like a true life story right there. You know, so that's resignation. It's like, oh, why bother? The circumstances are always going to be X, Y, and Z. Self-acceptance, on the other hand, is acknowledging and celebrating where you're at and having ambition of being an evolved version of you. And the choice of the word evolved is very deliberate, because I don't mean fitter, I don't mean thinner, I don't mean leaner, I don't mean healthier necessarily. I just mean evolved. You have evolved, okay? And that looks different for different people. So acceptance is giving yourself a mini pat on the back, an acknowledgement of where you are in this time and space and place, and also hold a space for a future version of you. It's not taking away from where you are now. It's not taking away from who you are as a person right now, because you're no less worthy ever, but especially now. And it's just going, hey, this is me. This is where I'm at. And I'm also working on becoming an even better version of myself. And that's a journey. And I love myself all the same. I love myself today. I love myself yesterday. I love future version of me. I love past version of me. When you create love and acceptance for all versions of you, your relationship to the number on the scales and your body fat percentage, your body composition, the numbers that you lift in the gym, that really starts to change, because your sense of self-worth is then no longer determined by those numbers. And honestly, nor should it be, because again, those numbers don't add to you. If you have more friends when you're thin, you have the wrong fucking friends. If you have fewer friends when you're thinner, leaner, you also have the wrong fucking friends, okay? So it goes without saying that none of this actually matters. The emotional attachment to the number on the scales, to the numbers that you're lifting, to your body fat percentage, you have to get to a point in life where you ask yourself, for how much longer am I going to obsess about this? And how correct is the assumption that I am a better version of me for being these numbers? I'm not going to have more friends. I'm not going to have fewer friends. I'm not going to be smarter. I'm not going to be less intelligent. I'm not going to be happier. I'm not going to be less happy. I might be a little bit healthier, but if you put in so much effort to be physically healthier whilst also losing mental sanity, arguably you're not that much healthier. So the attachment, well, we need a lot less attachment and a lot more being deliberate with your time. We need a lot more intentionality. We need a lot more intentionality with how you use your time and dedicating a lot more time to building good habits. What feels good for you? Do you feel like a better version of you when you spend 10 minutes a day meditating, 15 minutes a day journaling, getting into bed 15 minutes earlier instead of scrolling mindlessly through social media so that you can feel happy about yourself? Find people you can compare yourself to. Because chances are you'll just find more people who have better lives than you, and you just end up feeling like, oh, I'm the same age as that person. That person seems to have a better life than me. Do you know? It's just a very easy trap of sorts to fall into. So less focus on other people, less attachment to the number on the scales, less attachment to body fat percentage, less attachment to the weights that you're lifting, more focus on process, more focus on creating mental clarity, more focus on connecting with why you're doing this in the first place. I'm doing this because I want to be a badass 80-year-old who can unscrew jars of peanut butter by herself. That's the damn truth. Okay? Yes, I want to be able to back squat twice my body weight, and I'm getting there. I'm close. But equally, and I really, really, really mean equally, I want to be 80, 90, 100 and be able to unscrew jars of peanut butter and jam so I can make a peanut butter and jam sandwich without anyone's help. I do not want to have someone open jars of peanut butter and jam for me. Because if I can't do that, pull me out of my fucking misery. Okay? Like, that is no life I want to live. Honestly. More attachment to process, more consistency with your processes, more connection with why you're doing this. Why? What difference is it going to make if no one's going to pop bottles of champagne and declare it a national holiday the day you lose 10 kilos? If that's not going to be the response from the world, why are you doing this? What is losing 5 kilos going to do for you? How is that going to change your life? And what will that allow you to do with your life that you can't currently do? If you can't answer those questions, I'm not sure you're in this for the quote unquote right reasons. Chances are you're then going to go into a cycle of self-sabotaging behavior because you'll prove to yourself that you'll never be able to get there. And this is just human behavior. If you can't win at losing 10 kilos, you'll win at failing losing 10 kilos. This is just how humans work. I've just seen it enough times. I just know. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I just know this is how people work. Okay? So if you can't answer those questions, you have to ask yourself, why do it in the first place? Another point I really wanted to make was you need to let it go. For high-flying businesswomen, female founders, C-suite executives, they like to do it all. And that's why they're so amazing. It's how they've got to where they are today. It's how they built a business. Because they threw themselves into the deep and they figured it the fuck out. I moved to Asia with $500, no job, no visa, and no fucking clue what I was doing. And I figured it out. And there are areas of my life that I have to learn to pass on to other people, to outsource, to hire other people, to scale, to have that load be freed up for other things that are more true to my genius, natural brain function, and I guess just forte, quite honestly. There are things that I'm not great at. And I need to do a better job of letting go, of trying to do the things that I'm not great at. I can definitely get better at them. There's no harm in practicing. But when it comes to health and fitness, I see happen all too often where females really, really get in their own way. They have managed to figure out a lot of things, but they haven't figured out their health and fitness. And it frustrates them. So they force themselves to keep going. They force themselves to persevere and try and figure it out and try and figure it out and try and figure it out and try and figure it out, almost as a way to drive themselves more crazy. Ain't no one need help being more crazy, okay? Like, life's too short for that shit. Let's keep it together. What these women really need to do is find someone who knows their shit. Let that person be the guide in all of this. Let that person give them one or two things to really, really focus on so that they can get back to the business of running their business. There's no harm in doing that. You're not losing face. No one thinks less of you for finding a person who can help you in the ways that you need help. And what you need someone who has been there and done that. You need someone who has a lot of skin in the game, who's had skin in the game for a long time, and who has lost the weight that you want to lose. You need to work with someone who has done what you are trying to do, because they're going to have the shortcuts, they're going to have the hacks, they're going to know what your time is worth spending on, they're going to know what you should focus on, they're going to know what is going to suit you in terms of nutrition, in terms of approaches to exercise. They're going to know what is definitely not worth time. They're going to tell you what to look out for when it comes to doing blood work. Like, hello, if you have no stored iron, it's going to start replicating hypothyroidism. It's going to make it hard to recover from exercise. You're going to feel sluggish all the time. You're going to be able to concentrate. You're going to have a hard time aerobically when it comes to what you do in the gym. That is just one thing you should be looking out for when it comes to blood work. One thing that is not tested by default, it's not tested. Serum iron, yes. Stored iron, no. You should be testing your stored iron. Message me if you want to know more. So you need to find an expert and work hand in hand with them so that you can get back to the business of running your business. You need someone who's familiar and well versed with fitness, someone who's familiar and well versed with nutrition, and someone who's going to be able to share with you the shifts you need to make from a headset stand of view, because there's going to be changes to your belief system that need to take place in order to become the healthiest version of yourself. If you hold the same belief system at the 10-week mark, at the 10-month mark, at the 10-year mark, trust me, your body is not going to see much change. You cannot go into the next chapter of your health and fitness journey with the same belief system that got you 10 kilos overweight. It's just not going to happen. Same with finance. You want to become a millionaire, but you want to spend every other dollar that you have on new activewear. You're not going to become a millionaire, okay? So there's different belief systems you're going to have to work through and build in order to allow yourself to become the healthiest version of you. There's a reason why you have the body composition that you have. Chances are there's a whole host of belief systems that got you to that point and that are keeping you where you are. That's why you need to work with someone who understands headspace, worked with high-performing athletes, high-performing achievers, so that you can understand which belief systems are holding you back. Which leads me to my next point, beliefs before lifestyle. A lot of people come to me and they say that they want health and fitness to be integrated into their lifestyle, but they are making zero change to how they live their life. They are saying yes to the same social arrangements. They are saying yes to the same work commitments. They are saying yes to the same people who aren't living the healthiest life, shall we say. Why do we keep saying yes when we really need the answer to be no? Often it forms part of a self-sabotaging cycle. They say that you are the summary of the 5 people nearest to you. Some of you are going to have to let go of friends and family members so that you can become the healthiest version of yourself. Or at least distance yourself. Maybe not forever, but perhaps temporarily so. And that's just one of many, many, many beliefs that we need to shift in order to become a healthier version of us. You don't need these people. You don't need their approval. You don't need them to like you. You do need you to become healthier. And what you need to become healthier is to say no more often. Again, beliefs will determine your lifestyle. So if you want to integrate fitness into your lifestyle and healthy living into your lifestyle, look at what you're saying yes to and how often you're saying yes to those things, how often you're saying yes to those people, because chances are they're not getting you any closer to that vision. Then ask yourself, what value do they bring to your life, if any? That's a really important point to make because, again, our beliefs determine our actions. Repeated actions are habits. When people want to become a healthier version of themselves, they usually start at the wrong end of the spectrum. They start by trying to force their behaviors to change. And honestly, it doesn't work, not long term. If you don't find the essence that is holding you back in terms of the belief that you have, the specific belief that you have, which is determining the less than desired outcome, nothing's going to shift long term. If you always think you're always going to be the overweight person in the room, you stand no chance of losing that weight and keeping it off. Okay? So, beliefs. If you believe that you always have to put your business first, your health will suffer. You will never have the health that you want if you believe that you always need to be available to your business every second of every day, all the time. That's going to hold you back. If you believe that no one is capable of helping you run your business, same thing, your health will suffer. If you believe that you need to be accepted by your peers and approved of by those around you, then again, your health is going to suffer because you do whatever it takes to be accepted by them. Usually that means drinking. Often it means eating unhealthy foods. And that's okay. Like, you do you, boo. You eat what you want. All I'm saying is a lot of people eat foods that they don't really want to eat so that they feel socially accepted. And that's not a great place to live your life from. That's not where you want to come from when it comes to how you choose to eat and drink and live. If you feel that every single workout has to be incredibly intense, otherwise it's not worth it, your health is going to suffer because at some point that intensity is going to catch up to you. It's either going to result in elevated cortisol, or it's going to result in injury, or it's going to result in you hating exercise. Because do many people really like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do a boot camp at 6 outside, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes? It's for some people, I get that, but it's really not for everyone. If you think you need to run in order to lose weight, that's probably going to hold you back. Enjoy those knee injuries. I'll say that. So we have to look at the belief systems that you have and understand how that has determined your current lifestyle. What role does that belief system have in forming your lifestyle as it stands today? If you believe that you have to travel half of the month, every single month for the next 10 years, not to say that you can't be healthy, it's just going to be a bit more challenging, okay? Or if you think that you can't be healthy and travel half of the month, every single month, then you're definitely not going to be, because that in and of itself is a very limiting belief. And I've worked with people very effectively in navigating how to travel and be healthy. And of course, the word healthy, if you're not seeing this in video format, if you're just listening to this, please understand healthy can be determined in literally billions of different ways. So whatever interpretation you have is your interpretation. But when I say healthy, it's in inverted commas, okay? Healthy as you define it. Limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs. How much effort are you putting into understanding your belief system as it exists? What effort, attention, and energy are you putting into connecting the dots between your belief system and your current health outcomes? Probably not a whole lot. That's worth exploring. If you find yourself repeating the same patterns of behavior, if you feel stuck time and time again, as though you just cannot shift the needle on health and fitness and you can't figure out why, chances are it's you have at least one, probably quite a few, limiting beliefs. And they could all stem back to the same original belief, okay? That's worth noting. But chances are there's a limiting belief that is keeping you where you are. If you're not making an effort to understand that, and if you're not making an effort to connect the dots between where you are now and how that connects back to your belief system, then nothing's going to change. Not long term. Temporarily, look, anyone can give up carbs for 30 days. Anyone can give up alcohol for 30 days. That's not too strenuous. Most people can work with a 30-day timeline in mind. But you should know that habit formation is much more complicated than we realize. And it takes a minimum of 66 days to form one habit. The healthiest version of you probably needs to work on 5 to 10 different habits, whether it's getting up earlier, going to bed later, getting more steps in each day, eating more protein, eating more fiber, drinking more water. Hello, here's Penelope Peach, beautiful 2-liter water bottle. What else do we have? Healthy habits. Spending time being mindful. Just dedicating 15 minutes each day, that's 1% of your day, to being mindful. And that can look like journaling. It could look like meditation. It could look like asking yourself a series of questions, journaling prompts. That could look different for every single one of you, of course. But the healthiest for you likely is in a space of needing to build 5 to 10 different habits. And those habits are not going to be built if you have belief systems which keep you where you are now. Okay, so that's a shift to be made. And to add to that, ask yourself, how open are you to seeing yourself differently? How open are you to seeing yourself in a new and different light? What is your attachment to your current definition of you? Because if you are clinging on to that definition with two tightly bound fists, then again, nothing is going to change. If you want to change, you need to have an openness to seeing yourself in a different way, to seeing yourself from different angles, from different perspectives, to letting go of how you have been. If you have been the overweight person in the room, that's cool. But are you determined to continue to be the overweight person in the room? Because if so, again, what do you expect to change? You don't have to be anything you don't want to be. And the flip side of that is you can be anything you want to be. I'm just so lucky that my parents instilled that in me from such a young age. You can do anything you want to, so long as you set your mind to it. Not to say it comes easy. No. Is it possible? Yes. If you set your mind to it, which means if you work at it on a very, very, very consistent basis with intention, with intentionality. So they're just a few shifts. There are many, many more. There are many, 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 many more. They are a few worth highlighting, in particular the belief systems. But I think flexing the muscle of looking at the gray area between completely perfect and completely imperfect is critical. getting good at that great area? How good are you at celebrating quote unquote small wins? How attached are you to being perfect? How good are you at letting yourself be imperfect? How good are you at exercising when the conditions are not perfect? How good are you with your nutrition and management of alcohol when the conditions are not perfect? How good are you at getting your step count on? How good are you at reading, 8,000 steps, 10,000 steps on a day where you are in back-to-back meetings for 8 hours? How good are you at drinking honestly, I think 4 is the minimum. If you live in Singapore, 4 has to be the minimum. How good are you at drinking 4 liters of water a day when you are in meetings and presenting majority of those meetings for 8 hours a day? That's not so easy. Of course, if you're talking a lot, you don't have as much opportunity to drink water. How good are you at making an effort to just be still? I'm not great, not gonna lie. I have work to do there, but I'm getting better. How good are you at just being still and present and mindful and conscious of your thoughts, conscious of your breath? How good are you at that when you have 16,000 tabs open in your brain? And that is my brain. It's not easy, but it's something I'm working on and something I'm getting better at. How good are you at getting to sleep when you are sitting down on the couch after a big day, after a 14-hour day, and wanting to spend an hour just watching dumb shit on TV? It's easy to get sucked into the Netflix. It's easy to get sucked into YouTube. It's easy to just scroll to the next video. It's easy to watch one more episode. How deliberate are you with your consumption of TV and podcasts? And I was going to say magazines. Do people still read magazines? I'm seeing a magazine holder right now. It's looking a bit dusty. So how good are you at having the discipline to switch off? Because it does require discipline. Is it a mind shift that you need to create to make yourself, I can go to bed at a reasonable hour. I do not need to sit here and decompress by watching 2 hours of TV. I mean, let's be real, that extra hour of sleep is going to do a lot more for you. So these are all the shifts that we can start to form and create and build and work through and change and evolve over time. It doesn't happen overnight. And I'll say that until you believe me. Habits take 66 days to form, minimum. So you're best off focusing on 1 or 2 changes you've identified that you want to work on and getting really good at being consistently consistent, to use the words of Ruby. I did a great podcast with her on consistency. And I love the way that she phrased it with regards to being consistently consistent. Because when we talk about consistency, often it, in a sense, implies that it is an all or nothing situation. We did something for a week and then we did nothing. However, when we're consistently consistent, it allows us to zoom out a little bit more and see if, over time, in the grand scheme of things, are we doing something most of the time? Or is it partial some of the time? That's a lot to take in. It's a lot. It's really a lot. But I want you to remember less is more. Going back to my first point, less is more. More is not better. More quality is better. So focus on quality and focus on doing 1 or 2 things really well and getting really good at doing those 1 or 2 things really well most of the time. That's when you create change. Then, when you feel that is becoming automatic, familiar, when you feel as though you come to know that like the back of your hand, so to speak, then move on to the next item. Then shift your attention to the next area you would like to change and shift and evolve. And then repeat the same process, because the same process will work more or less 99% of the time for creating change. Open yourself up, challenge your belief system, reframe the belief, then build that into your vocabulary. Over time, that will start to feel more natural. And then again, you just recalibrate. You repeat the same for the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. So it's going to be easy to now want to add a ton of things to your to-do list and put more on your overflowing plate. Going back to my first point, less is more. More is not better if the quality is lesser. More quality is always better. More intentionality, more intensity, more focus is better. So zone in, zoom in, zone in on what it is that you're looking to create change on, and apply all the processes I just outlined. And with time, you'll see change. But that's really the point or area rather that people will skip over. That's where people will get caught up, is they'll stop before they see change because they're not able to be consistent. They're not able to be consistent because they judge themselves for not having greater outcome for the amount of time that they have put into something. They think that they should get 5 times the outcome on their efforts. They think they put 3 months, effort into training, and they should basically get the result of someone who's trained for 3 years. Okay. If you've seen my training, I've been training for 12 years. If you've been training for 1 year, good on you. But it's not really fair for you to compare yourself to someone who's been training for 5 times as long as you, or 10 times as long as you, or 15 years longer than you. Okay. So people anticipate an outcome at least 3, if not 5 or 10 times greater than their efforts. If you live to be 100 years of age, 1 year is literally 1% of your life. So, maybe try sticking at something for at least a year before you decide whether your efforts have been worth it or not. And that will give you a much better indication of whether something is working. I hope that helps. I am currently taking clients online and face-to-face for both coaching of this nature as well as personal training and nutrition coaching. I'm a certified sports nutritionist. So if any of this resonates, if any of this is like, oh my God, she's reading my mind, I need this person to guide me on the next step of life, I need to create some of these shifts, then do reach out. Don't be a stranger. There is a link in my bio on Facebook as well as Instagram. Should be one on LinkedIn as well. So please feel free to click the link in my bio to fill out an application form. You can always email me as well. You can always leave me a comment here as well. That also works. But I look forward to seeing you in the next live training. Any suggestions on what you'd like me to cover, I am always happy to receive. I want to cover topics that are of interest to you. Don't be a stranger. Do reach out. I'm friendlier than my resting gym face, as I like to say. As intense as I can be on gym floor, I am, hopefully you can tell, also very friendly and happy to help always. So please do reach out. Let me know if this resonated. This will be released in podcast form as well. So if you'd like a copy, email me. I'll send you the rough copy. If you want the podcast, that will be out in a few weeks. But there are plenty other trainings I've done in the past which are on my podcast already available for you to listen to. Just search Laura Phillips, that's PH2Ls for Phillips, Real Talk, because I like the truth and I'm not here to bullshit you. So Laura Phillips, Real Talk is the name of my podcast, and there's plenty of other trainings and of course conversations with other professionals on there as well. So make sure you check that out. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next live training. Ciao for now.